Hi everyone, it is Bridget here from Bridget's Healthy Kitchen, wishing you a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, wherever you're joining me from. I hope you're well and I hope you are safe. Tonight's episode of Your Recipe Requests, which we're doing here all week in Bridget's Healthy Kitchen, is a fabulous one, and it's one that I have been asked many times to create a healthy version of, and that is the Lamington. For anyone who is not sure what a Lamington is, and there may be a few of them, it is a classic dish. Australian by nature and Australian by invention. I'm sorry Kiwis, you can't claim this one, it belongs to the Aussies, and it is basically a Lamington. Traditional Lamington is a sponge cake, and then that sponge cake is covered in like a chocolate coating, and then it's rolled in desiccated coconut. So we will get into a bit more of the history of the Lamington as we're going through, because it's pretty fascinating, but I will state, you may notice from the colours behind me, green and gold, this recipe belongs to the Australians. Kiwis, we're going to keep our pavlova, but the Aussies have this one, and rightly so, and we'll talk about the history a little bit more as we're going. Now this recipe is, I'm actually calling it the Lady Lamington. So it is my healthy version of that famous classic Australian dessert, but it's got a few little twists to it. So firstly, of course, it's gluten-free, it is sugar-free, it is dairy-free, it is grain-free. In fact, I'm going to teach you guys a vegan, egg-free version of a Lamington, and we're calling them the Lady Lamington in celebration of Australia's well and true claim to the Lamington. So come and join me down on my bench. It is a quick recipe. It doesn't require any baking either, which is fabulous. So come on down, join me down here. It's one of those recipes which I like to say, don't blink, because you might miss it, and we're going to be doing everything straight into our little food processor here. So onto my set of scales, because the first thing you want to do is, as I was saying, this is grain-free and gluten-free, but it's not nut-free. And it's one of those recipes, guys, that it is hard. It's going to be a little bit harder for people who don't eat almond. It is going to be a little bit harder to swap this out because the texture and the flavor won't be quite right. So unfortunately, if you are nut-free, you may find this is a recipe you might have to sit out. You could test it, but you might have to sit it out. So firstly, into my little food processor, we're going to put 120 grams of almond flour. Now the reason I'm saying that about the almond flour is that it needs to be quite a neutral flavor, because remember, we're trying to mimic a sponge cake. So, you know, if you're using something like walnut flour, that just won't work. Or if you're using even sunflower seed flour, that could possibly not work as well. The only other nut you could potentially use here, but I don't like to use a lot of them in my cooking, is the cashew nuts. And the reason why I don't use a lot of cashews in my cooking is they have something which is known as lectins in them. They're quite high in lectins, and lectins from some account can be not as healthy as our almonds, not as good for us. So 120 grams, which is, 4.5 ounces, just under 4.5 ounces, goes into our processor. And we're pretty much going to put all the ingredients into here. So the next thing we have to think about is, of course, well, you can't have a Lamington without coconut, right? So make sure, of course, your coconut is sugar-free. There is, it blows my mind, but some coconuts on the market, some dried coconuts have sugar added to them. So just check the back of your label, just to make sure you just buy plain old desiccated coconut with nothing else. And we're going to be adding 40 grams of coconut into the mix, but of course we're going to save some for afterwards as well. So the history of the Lamington is it's pretty hilarious, only because there was a scam, not a scam, there was a April's Fool's prank that went out in about, I think, 2014 or something like that, from The Guardian, which is an Australian paper, saying that New Zealand was actually the inventor of the Lamington. And it was such a well done prank. No one knew it was a prank, even though it was April Fool's Day, that a lot of Kiwis believed it to be true. So it's not true. It is totally not true. All right. So once we've got the coconut in there, yay, fiber syrup. I'm so glad it's back in stock. We can make delicious things like this. And with the fiber syrup, our sweet as fiber syrup, which is of course going to turn this into a prebiotic now, and also act as the sweetener, is we're going to be adding in 60 grams of fiber syrup. And by the way, this recipe makes a dozen of our little Lady Lamingtons. So it's a pretty good little amount. So once you've got that in there, I'm going to add a pinch of salt, which I forgot. Just a pinch of mineral salt just to balance out the flavors. And as well as that, I'm just going to put in a teaspoon of pure vanilla is going in there because we want to make sure that we have that kind of vanilla-y sponge flavor going through it. And I'm also going to be adding in 10 grams, which is, you know, about a third of an ounce of melted coconut oil is going in there as well. And that is pretty much the ingredients for the base of our little lady lamingtons. So lid goes on, don't need that anymore. Give it a bit of a blend just till it's well combined. It might take you 10 seconds, it might take you 20 seconds. Give it a bit of a shake, of course. Yep, happy. What we now have there is this you can see it's kind of formed into a bit of a soft dough, which is perfect. And it's very simple. Let me just grab a bowl so you can see what it looks like. I'm just going to take it out of there. It comes out pretty easy as well, but don't forget to scrape the sides because you don't want to waste any of this wonderful Lamington dough. Well, dough, is it? Yeah, I suppose it is a dough. We've kind of made a dough. So once that's like that, the only thing you need to do now, oh, I forgot I do need these, is we're going to start to roll. So make sure your hands are perfectly clean. And we're going to be rolling our lamingtons. And I mean we're going to be rolling them. I'm actually going to be creating lamington balls. That's why I've called them Lady Lamingtons, lamington balls. And you can get 12 balls like that. I'm just going to measure it just to make sure. You want them at around about 20 grams, 25 grams, something like that. There are going to be your little balls of lamingtons. Just like that, see? And it's easy, you just roll them until all your balls are done. Like I said, 20 to 25 grams is what you're looking for. And I find that's a really nice bite size as well. So these are wonderful, obviously, because they can be popped into a lunchbox. They can be sent off to work. You know, they can be put onto an amazing platter and treated like almost like little canapes or afternoon or high tea as well. So once you've rolled off all your lamington balls, your Lady Lamingtons, I suggest now that you allow them to sit in the fridge for about half an hour because you want them to cool down a little bit. You don't want them to be too soft when you take the next step. So my suggestion is if you can wait for half an hour, put those in the fridge once they're all rolled and allow those to cool down for you because you want to be able to, it just helps when it comes to the ease of putting them through the chocolate. So let's talk about the chocolate. So imagine those are in the fridge now. I'll put them over there. I think I have got some in the fridge. Let me double check. Cooling down. I do have some in here. Obviously they're just really hard now, which is fantastic. But let's talk about chocolate. So Lamingtons obviously is that yellow sponge cake we've been talking about before, and then you roll it in chocolate. And then you put it in desiccated coconut. So we are totally going to do the chocolate bit. I have here a little pot which I'm going to put on. Just a small little pot as you can see, just to start to help to melt the chocolate. So that's going to go on. Now the thing about Lamingtons that I love is they taste amazing. And I remember having them at pretty much every single school fair or bakery, even in New Zealand. Everyone did Lamingtons. And it was either chocolate or strawberry and of course rolled in coconut. It was so light and tender. And so the reason why it's taken me a little bit of time to get this recipe to a point where I'm happy to share it with you, because as you guys know, a sponge should be really light. That's the whole idea about a sponge. And I was finding with a lot of the testing I was doing, the sponge wasn't coming out right. But this version is amazing. It is incredible. So the thing I like about Lamingtons, apart from the taste, is I love the story behind it. So as the story would go, the reason why Lamingtons can be claimed by the Australians is because Lamingtons were invented in the late 1800s all the way in Queensland. Now there was a governor of Queensland at the time. His name was Lord Lamington. Obviously his wife was Lady Lamington, hence why I'm taking that and using that to name our lovely healthy Lamingtons after Lady Lamington. And they had an event at their house, as you do, as you can imagine. And there was a bit of a surprise amount of people that turned up to this event. And I'm talking about, it was like 1896 or something like that. And because there was more people that turned up than was expected, the chef, Lord Lamington's chef, a little bit flustered, had to kind of make something out of nothing. And what he came up with was the Lamington, the sponge cake rolled in chocolate, covered in coconut. Now, the plot thickens because his chef was in fact French. So it is an Australian creation for Lord Lamington, created in Queensland around about 1896 by a French chef. So there you go, that's kind of the story, but it's fabulous, isn't it? It's wonderful. So my water's boiling now. That took enough time. I don't actually want it to be boiling. I want it to be just simmering. Because what we are about to do is we are about to melt the chocolate. And as I've always said, and as we've always talked about here, is that when it comes to melting chocolate, you want the water to just be simmering. You then take a pot, either a glass or a metal bowl. Inside of here I have 100 grams of dark, sugar-free, gluten-free chocolate. Now if you're wondering where to get your chocolate from, you can either look for it in your local supermarket. I know some people find it quite difficult to track down the sugar-free, the gluten-free chocolate. But keep looking. If you can't find it in your local supermarket, either your health food store, and then your other best bet is to go online. I do actually buy my chocolate online because I find it a little bit harder to track down in the supermarket. Sometimes they've got it, sometimes they don't. So this is definitely, for me, is the best way. I buy mine online. But you know, depending on where you live and what's available, you might easily find it in your supermarket. So I'm just melting the chocolate, letting it do its little thing. Leave it there for a couple seconds. Yes, you can melt it in the microwave as well if you want to. I prefer this method. It's just, I don't know. I know it's by a French chef now, right? The Lamingtons were made by a Frenchman. And so I have to be I feel like I have to be at least a little bit traditional here in melting the chocolate over a bain-marie, which is our water bath that we would use in any kitchen, in any French kitchen all around the world. So while that's melting, you're going to need to get yourself possibly just a little a wire rack. That's just going to help when we are coating the chocolate. And this is the fun part. Like, don't let anyone tell you it's not fun. This is definitely the fun part. Yeah, it can get a bit messy, but if you have allowed your Lamingtons to cool in the fridge for just that 30 minutes, they're going to firm up, which is perfect. That's just going to help ease you through the coating stage. And you'll get sticky, but that's fine. You're making Lamingtons that are really healthy, so it doesn't matter, right? So once your chocolate is coming, you know, we want it to obviously be liquid. I'm still not quite liquid there. Woo. Let the steam out. There you go. Let the steam out. But you want it to be liquid, and you want it to be warm while you're doing it as well. Ooh. It's boiling away madly underneath me. I'm just making sure not to have the water too hot. Keep on stirring. The stirring process definitely helps as you're going. But what you're trying to do is create, obviously, liquid chocolate. Oh, we're nearly there. It doesn't take long because, as you guys all know, chocolate melts at blood temperature. So the perfect temperature for melting chocolate is in your mouth. But then you won't be able to coat the Lamingtons, so that wouldn't work. But like, seriously, blood temperature, that is the perfect temperature. That's why chocolate is so good. That's why when you put chocolate in your mouth, it melts. You don't have to bite. You just have to press down. That's the whole idea, right? Okay, so chocolate looks good. It is melted. Turn you off. I'll show you. La. That's what you want, nice and melted. I don't want to waste anything. I'm very conscious of not wasting any of this, right? So I'm just going to scrape it off there just in case. Don't waste the chocolate. Okay. All right. So the reason why you want to, ideally, you don't have to, you want to keep your Lamingtons in the fridge just to get a little bit firm, is then you're able to poke it onto something sharp and do this. And that is so much easier than working with a couple of spoons. Like, seriously. See, you can move your bowl around. You can get a spoon and kind of, dribble it like that. But in terms of coating your Lamington, I've tried a few different ways and just, a couple of fingers just to take it off. Not only is it the cleanest way I have come across, but it's also the easiest way. So if you were to do that with a lamington you've just rolled, chances are it will fall off and it will drive you nuts. So that's why I suggest that little bit of resting time. If you don't have, if you like thinking about your kitchen equipment, you're like, I don't have anything sort of, this is like a barbecue skewer. If you don't have anything kind of sharp, or you know, that you could literally poke your lamington with, then you would go to a couple of spoons. That is the alternative, is just to go to a couple of spoons. There we go. And I'll show you the spoon technique. As I was saying, it's a little bit messier. That's the only reason why I'm not so keen. You grab one of your lamingtons, yep. Then you drop it in, and you do this sort of thing. Now the other point about chocolate, is that if it starts to get a little bit, you know, hard on you, it needs to be obviously well melted the entire time you're doing it. But if it starts to get a little bit hard on you, then you just pop it back over onto the bain-marie and let it gently just come back to this wonderful liquid temperature. So here's one of the soft ones. I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to give it a go anyway. Why not? I just heard a cat fight outside our front. It was quite intense. I hope it's not one of our cats. Oh gosh. Oh, that looks pretty good. Actually, that's actually working really well. Maybe it's because I'm thinking about it. I'm being very conscious of it and getting enough of that chocolate on. So layer up the chocolate. It's going to be delicious, right? So once you're at that point, the easiest way is to take about another 10 grams of your coconut, of your desiccated coconut, about another 10 grams, which is another 1/3 of an ounce, and then you drop it in there, give it a little bit of a coat, roll it back and forward. It's usually the easiest way to do it. And then we're just going to very carefully pop that back onto our, you can't see, I just realized you guys can't see. Sorry guys. Pop it back on there, just like that. I'll do one more so you guys can see. Ooh, fingers. Like I said, this is the messy part, but it's also the fun part. All right, give it a bit of a shake. Give it a little bit of a shake. And then, can you see now? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. All right, just, there you go. And if you find that there's some fingerprints, just a little bit of a sprinkle always helps as well. So once you've done all your lamingtons and you've covered them all, your lady lamingtons, you've covered them all in your desiccated coconut, then they do definitely need a little bit of time in the fridge just to get that, allow that chocolate time to harden. I mean, you could just literally leave them on here once you've all rolled them in your coconut, and they might take about 20 minutes to harden, but obviously you pop them in the fridge, in 5 minutes time you can start eating a lamington. So I'll show you the finished product. I've got chocolate all over me, it's fabulous. Here you have it. These are fabulous, absolutely stunning and gorgeous little lady lamingtons. Aren't they amazing? But how do they taste? That is the question, right? So I get the terrible, terrible task of now trying one and letting you know my thoughts. It's such a hard thing that I have to do sometimes. Terribly, terribly difficult. I hope you all feel for me. Let me show you the texture. Can you see? Can you guys see the texture? Oh. You would be not in a bad place if you thought you were eating a lamington right now. The texture is phenomenal. Like, that's thanks to the fiber syrup, obviously the almond, you know, it's got very little taste, which is really important, as I was saying. But the texture is amazing. So my suggestion is, when you make these, and you have to make these, even if you're not Australian, even if you're on the other side of the world, this is one of those treats that is so well known in Australia, so incredibly well known. Like I said, almost every single school fair or, you know, or fete or whatever it is that's been operated, you will definitely see on the cake stand there will be chocolate coated, coconut desiccated rolled lamingtons, because they have been around for over 100 years, as we now know. But they are so popular, in fact, there is a National Lamington Day in Australia. I mean, that's even more evidence that it belongs to Australia, right? They have a National Lamington Day. I think it's July the 12th or the 14th, July the 12th. But the other thing that makes these amazing and just so uniquely Australian is Australian schools use lamingtons as a form of fundraising. They have lamington drives, also known as lamos. I mean, that's evidence, right? You don't need any more knowledge on the fact that these are lamos, and you can go to a lamo, which is a lamington drive in Australia, and help fundraise for your local school. But they don't quite taste like this, do they? But if you wanted to do a version like this for a school fundraiser, oh my god, they are amazing. My goodness, they're fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. I hope you've enjoyed this recipe. I'm sorry, I'm going to eat the whole thing. I can't not. It'd be silly to waste it, right? I hope you've enjoyed. As always, pardon, I'm talking while I've got my mouth full. I will be sharing the principal PDF with you guys tomorrow on Bridget's Healthy Kitchen. And of course, we've got lots more of your recipe requests coming up later on in the week. But until then, I hope that you've enjoyed tonight, and I hope that you come back for more. Please bring your friends, but make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to watch all these videos again. You can go onto YouTube, Bridget's Healthy Kitchen. You can subscribe on Pinterest as well, and you can subscribe on Instagram. So hopefully I'll see you across all those platforms, and we can eat and have wonderful, delicious treats like healthy lamingtons whenever we need. So thank you guys for joining me. Please be safe. Please be well. We'll see you next time right here in Bridget's Healthy Kitchen. Take care, guys. Bye.